The school nurse called me at 10:14 on a Wednesday morning and asked whether I could pick up my daughter, Ava Hart. I told her she had the wrong number. She read it back to me, then said, "You're listed as Ava's secondary emergency contact. Aaron Cole is her father and primary guardian." Aaron Cole was my husband. We had been married 19 years. Our only child was an 18-year-old son named Caleb, and I had never heard the name Ava Hart. By the time Aaron came home that evening, I had received a portal invitation identifying me as Megan Cole, family friend, found a college account he had funded for 11 years, and matched his recurring field audits to parent conferences. The question was no longer whether my husband had lied. It was how an entire child's life had been built beside mine without anyone believing I deserved the truth. My name is Megan Cole. I was 45, managed purchasing outside Milwaukee, and was helping our 18-year-old son compare college aid packages. Aaron was a 48-year-old building systems engineer whose practical steadiness had made our family feel safe. That was why the nurse's words sounded impossible. Aaron is her father. Not stepfather. Not volunteer. Father. The nurse said Ava was stable after a mild allergic reaction, her mother was coming, and Aaron had not answered. My number had been added during enrollment 3 weeks earlier. She could not release more but flagged the record, and Northbridge's system emailed the contact fields I was authorized to see: Ava Hart, grade 11, Aaron Cole, father, Megan Cole, family friend. My mobile number and email were correct. This was not a database collision. Someone had typed my information into a form and chosen a false relationship from a menu. I did not activate the portal. I printed the invitation and called Aaron. He answered on the 4th ring, breathless, with mechanical noise behind him. "I'm in a plant room. Can I call you back?" "Who is Ava Hart?" The noise seemed to disappear even though I could still hear it. "What?" "Northbridge Academy called me because you are listed as her father." He inhaled slowly. "Megan, I can explain, but not while I'm at a job site. Tell me whether you are her father." "She's a student I've been helping." "The school says father. That's an administrative shortcut. Her mother needed another authorized adult on the file. Why am I listed as family friend? I must have used the wrong number when I updated the form. You entered my name, my number, my email, and a relationship category. That is not one wrong number." He said nothing. Then he asked whether Ava was okay. The question was immediate and specific. Not who called, not what happened. "Is Ava okay?" "Her mother is getting her," I said. "Come home. I have 2 inspections left. Then cancel them. I can't walk off a hospital site because a school form confused you." The words were meant to make me unreasonable. They did the opposite. "You have until 6 to decide whether you want to explain the form before I verify it another way." I ended the call. My hands were shaking, but my thoughts were clear enough to stay within records I already had a right to see. Our joint tax archive showed 6 years of donations to Northbridge, which Aaron had described as employer-supported scholarships. Our shared calendar never named the school, but his field audits, controls conferences, and Saturday commissioning visits repeatedly matched its public calendar for conferences, concerts, and homecoming. Not every date matched, enough did that coincidence stopped helping him. At 12:40, Aaron texted, "Ava is the daughter of a former coworker. Her mom has health issues. I agreed to be an emergency adult. I should have told you." Nothing more. At 1:05, he wrote, "The school uses father loosely for authorized guardians. At 1:22, please do not contact them and upset a minor." 3 explanations in 42 minutes, each making the previous one less true. I replied with one sentence: "Bring the original guardianship paperwork home." He did not answer. I left work early while Caleb was at community college and opened the family fireproof box, which both Aaron and I were authorized to access. Beneath our trust papers was a file for Lakeview Consulting, the side business Aaron reported on our joint returns. Inside were annual statements from a Wisconsin 529 college savings plan. The beneficiary line on the latest statement read Ava Renee Hart. Aaron was the account owner. The balance was $62,418. Contributions began 11 years earlier, the same year Ava would have turned 5. Most came from Lakeview Consulting. For larger deposits came from Aaron's parents. On the application copy, his relationship to the beneficiary was marked father. I sat on the basement floor with the statement across my knees and tried to understand what hurt most. It was not the money by itself. Aaron had earned the consulting income, but it appeared on our joint returns, affected our taxes, and was part of every conversation we had about how much we could afford. He had told me the extra work was funding Caleb's college and our retirement. Some of it had built a separate college fund for a girl whose existence I was apparently too dangerous to know. The contributions from his parents introduced a larger fact: someone else in his family had known. I photographed each document, returned it in order, and added the school deductions to the questions that required records rather than guesses. At 5:53, Aaron came through the door without his tool bag. He saw the school email, 529 statement, and tax summaries arranged on the dining table. His face did not show surprise. It showed recognition. "You went through my business files," he said. "Our tax records and family safe. Lakeview is mine. The income is on our joint return. The school donations are on our joint return. Your parents funded an account naming you as Ava's father." He sat across from me, but he did not touch the chair back. "She is my daughter." The sentence was quiet. No dramatic confession, no collapse. Just 4 words that had been kept outside my marriage for more than a decade. "How old is she?" 16. "When did you find out?" "When she was 5. "Who is her mother?" "Renee Hart. We worked together years ago." "Years ago means when?" He looked toward the front window. "During the 2nd year of our marriage." I had expected the answer and still felt my body reject it. Caleb had been 10 months old during Aaron's 6-week Madison project. "Was it an affair?" I asked. "It lasted a few months." "Did you know she was pregnant?" "No. She left the company before she was showing. She told me Ava belonged to the man she was seeing after me." "And when Ava was 5? "Renee contacted me. There were medical questions. We did a DNA test. You knew for 11 years. I was trying to take responsibility without destroying our family." "Whose family?" He closed his eyes. "Megan. Does Renee think you and I are married?" "Yes." "Does Ava?" "She knows I have another family." "Another family. Does she know my name?" I asked. "Not exactly." "Does she know Caleb?" "She knows she has a half-brother." "Does Caleb know?" "No." "Do your parents know?" Aaron rubbed both hands over his face. "They know about Ava." That answer opened the hidden system wider than the affair ever could. His parents had eaten Thanksgiving dinner in my home, praised Aaron for working so hard, and contributed to a college fund for a granddaughter I was not allowed to know existed. "Who else?" I asked. "My sister knows some of it." "Some." "Melissa met Ava twice." "Did they all believe I knew?" Aaron looked at the documents rather than me. "I told them you knew she existed but did not want contact." He had not only erased the truth from my home. He had installed a version of me inside the other life, informed, cold, and willing to let a child grow up at the edge of the family. "Get a bag," I said. "You are not staying here tonight. Please let me explain the decisions." "Not tonight." "Pack a bag." He stood, then stopped. "Ava had an allergic reaction today. I need to make sure she's okay." "Then do that. Being her father is not the part 1 I'm asking you to stop." For the first time, his composure broke. He stared at me as if I had removed the defense he had prepared. He could no longer turn my anger into a demand that he abandon his daughter. "Tomorrow," I said, "you will give me Renee's contact information and every record connected to this. You will not warn anyone to coordinate a story. If you refuse, communication goes through an attorney." Aaron said Renee would never speak to me. At 8:37 that night, after he left, my phone rang from an unfamiliar Madison number. A woman said, "This is Renee Hart. Aaron told me you found out about Ava. He also told me you already knew most of it. I need to know which one of those statements is the new lie." Renee did not sound like a woman calling to defend a lover. She sounded exhausted. I told her I had learned Ava's name that morning from a school nurse and had learned she was Aaron's daughter less than 3 hours earlier. The silence on the line lasted long enough that I checked whether the call had dropped. Then Renee said, "He told me you knew after the DNA test." Aaron had told her I agreed he should support Ava privately while the household stayed separate for Caleb's sake. "He made you sound hurt," she said, "not heartless. But he also said you chose distance." "I never had a choice. I understand that now." Renee said the affair ended before she knew she was pregnant and had never resumed. Aaron's relationship in her home was with Ava. On video, she showed identification and a kitchen wall of school photographs, including one of Aaron and his parents at Ava's concert on a weekend he had described to me as his father's medical emergency. Renee shared only documents she lawfully possessed: the DNA report Aaron commissioned when Ava was 5, a parenting support agreement their attorneys drafted privately, 529 contribution summaries, school invoices, and years of messages from Aaron. The DNA report dated the beginning, the messages showed the maintenance. Aaron told Renee that I knew about each milestone but preferred not to participate. When he attended Ava's middle school graduation, he wrote, "Megan understands why I need to be here." When his parents visited Ava, he wrote, "Megan has made peace with them knowing her." When he added my number to the school form, he told Renee it was proof I was finally willing to serve as an emergency backup. My inclusion was the latest prop in a story about my consent. Why did he use my real number? I asked. Northbridge now required 2 verified adult contacts, and Aaron's parents were in Florida, so he entered my information while telling Renee I had agreed. The school's records showed its general fund, not Ava, received our donations. Her tuition came from Lakeview and Renee. The accurate version was damaging enough. Aaron had used disclosed income, family gifts, false travel labels, and my invented approval to keep 2 histories compatible. Renee said Aaron never claimed to live with her. He attended events, took Ava to appointments, and spent 1 weekend a month in Madison, usually framed to me as inspections or help for his parents. On holidays, he divided hours. Christmas Eve breakfast with us, afternoon boiler emergency, evening dessert with Ava. Father's Day lunch with Caleb, late client callback, dinner with Ava. His reliability had not been false in either life. It had been divided with professional precision. I asked whether Ava knew how she had been conceived. Renee said she knew Aaron was married when she was born but had been told the marriage survived with my knowledge. Ava believed I chose not to meet her. She has asked about Caleb for years, Renee said. Aaron always said you were not ready. Shame hit me even though none of it belonged to me. A 16-year-old had interpreted my absence as rejection because Aaron needed a gatekeeper for the door he had built. I told Renee not to discuss our call with Ava that night if she could avoid it. The girl had already been sick at school and should not be forced into an adult crisis without preparation. Renee agreed. We decided that Aaron not either of us had to correct the central lie to both children, with a counselor involved if possible. We were not friends. We were 2 people comparing versions because one man had used each of us as evidence against the other. Before ending the call, Renee asked, "Are you going to make him stop seeing her?" "No," I said. "I am deciding whether I will keep seeing him." The next morning I called Marisol Vega, a family law attorney recommended by my manager. I asked what to preserve and what not to do. She told me not to empty accounts, contact Aaron's employer, or turn support for a biological child into an accusation. I should preserve authorized records and request complete disclosure through counsel. Protect yourself without treating the child like an invoice, she said. It was exactly the line I needed. Aaron came home at 10 that morning carrying 2 banker's boxes. He had slept at his office, he said, though I did not care enough to verify it. Marisol joined us by video with his consent. A spreadsheet tracked 11 years of tuition, medical costs, activities, travel, gifts, and his parents' contributions. Annual totals ranged from $9,000 to $21,000, drawn from consulting income and bonuses I believed supported our retirement. Aaron had kept every dollar visible to himself while making its purpose invisible to me, so every joint savings decision rested on false numbers. Marisol asked whether Aaron had any debt, property, or insurance connected to Ava or Renee. He said no property, no joint debt, and no romantic partnership. He also disclosed a term life policy naming both children equally, though he had let me believe Caleb was the sole beneficiary. Again, supporting Ava was not the betrayal. Manufacturing my consent was. Why didn't you tell me when the DNA test confirmed paternity? I asked. Aaron said Caleb was 6 and our marriage had just recovered from a difficult year. He feared I would leave, restrict access to Caleb, and demand that he choose between households. So you made the choice for me. I planned to tell you when things were stable. When was that? After your mother's cancer treatment. Then after Caleb changed schools. Then after my father's surgery. There was always something. There was always a life I was living that you could use as a reason to keep me uninformed. He looked down. Marisol asked who knew. Aaron listed Renee, his parents, his sister Melissa, Renee's attorney, his own former attorney, the school, and several of Ava's teachers and coaches. Each group had a different version. His parents believed I knew but refused contact. Melissa believed I knew but had forbidden Aaron from bringing Ava to family holidays. The school believed I was a family friend approved by both parents. His old attorney believed he had disclosed the private support agreement to his spouse because Aaron signed an acknowledgement stating he would address any marital property implications independently. The system did not require dozens of people to conspire. It required one person to distribute different fragments so nobody compared them. That was the most frightening part. Everyone else could tell themselves they were respecting privacy. Aaron alone knew privacy was the cover story. At noon, Caleb texted that he would be home early. I asked him to stay with a friend until dinner and promised we would explain. He replied, "Is this about Dad sleeping at work?" Aaron had already sent him a message saying we were arguing over old family responsibilities. Even now, he was preloading a softer version. I showed Aaron the text. "No more summaries," I said. "You tell the truth, or I will tell it with the documents beside me." He asked for 1 day to prepare. I said he had used 11 years preparing everyone except the people most affected. We arranged a session for the next afternoon after a family therapist Marisol knew had a cancellation. Caleb deserved to hear the truth without becoming our mediator. Renee asked Ava's regular counselor to meet her separately. Before the session, Aaron told his parents and Melissa on speaker that I had never known. His mother said she thought questioning me would violate a boundary. Melissa admitted she accepted the version that let her avoid a fight. Aaron's father said they had tried to protect a granddaughter. "You protected her with my reputation," I said. "You let her believe I was the obstacle." Nobody had an answer. The next afternoon, Caleb sat between us in the therapist's office with his arms folded. Aaron said he had a 16-year-old daughter named Ava, that she was conceived during an affair when Caleb was a baby, and that he learned the truth 11 years ago. He admitted I had found out only the day before. Caleb's first question was not about the affair. "Does she know about me?" Aaron said yes. Caleb looked at me. "Did you know any of this?" "No." Then he looked back at his father. "So she has known I am her brother for 11 years, and I did not know she existed?" Aaron tried to say he was protecting both families. Caleb stood up. "You keep using protecting when you mean deciding." He walked into the hallway with the therapist. I stayed in the chair and listened to Aaron breathe. His hidden life had finally reached the son whose stability supposedly justified it, and Caleb had identified the central lie in one sentence. Caleb did not come home with us. He spent the night at his best friend's house and asked me to bring him clothes without Aaron. In the driveway, he said he did not want to meet Ava yet and did not want her to think that meant he blamed her. He just needed time to understand why his father had trusted a 16-year-old with the truth about him while denying him the truth about her. I promised I would not carry messages between them unless both wanted it. That boundary became important quickly. Aaron wanted to repair everything through action. He proposed a family dinner, then a video call, then letters exchanged through the therapists. Each idea treated speed as proof of sincerity. Caleb said no. Renee said Ava was shocked and angry, mostly because Aaron had made her believe I rejected her. Ava asked whether she could send me one question in writing. I agreed. Her message was 6 words, "Did you know my name at all?" I answered with equal care, "Not until the school called Wednesday." "I am sorry you were told otherwise." I did not tell her about the affair, the money, or my anger. Those were adult burdens. Her existence was not evidence to be argued over. Disclosure showed no secret property or unpaid support judgment, but Aaron had understated Lakeview's balance and omitted the separate life policy from our estate planning summary. The payments for Ava were proper responsibilities, hiding them had still distorted our household decisions. Our attorneys established temporary financial rules while ensuring her support continued. Aaron moved into a furnished apartment 10 minutes away. He asked whether the separation was temporary. I said the housing was temporary, my decision was not ready. I needed to see whether truth from him existed when it was not forced by a document. For 3 days, he sent long explanations. I stopped reading after the second because each paragraph placed his fear at the center. He feared losing me. He feared losing Caleb. He feared harming Ava. He feared disappointing his parents. Every fear ended with someone else living inside a lie. I told him to produce a complete timeline instead of another apology. The timeline began with a 9-week affair during the Madison Project. Renee later believed another man was Ava's father until a pediatric blood test raised a question 5 years later. DNA confirmed Aaron's paternity, he made a support agreement, told his parents, and drafted a confession to me that he never delivered. Reading it was worse than reading a lie because it proved the truth had existed in finished sentences. "Megan, there is a child, and I am her father. I betrayed you years ago, and I have no right to ask you to absorb this quietly." He had known exactly what honesty required. Then he folded the letter into a file and spent 11 years performing the opposite. Small covers for the DNA appointment and first visits became recurring categories: field audits for school events, boiler emergencies for holidays, consulting trips for weekends. His family scheduled separate visits while believing I knew but could not tolerate reminders. Melissa apologized in writing. I did not accept it immediately. Regret did not restore the decade in which I had been discussed as a difficult woman inside rooms I did not know existed. Renee and I spoke twice more. She showed me messages where she challenged Aaron about my supposed refusal. 5 years earlier, when Ava wanted to invite Caleb to a school play, Renee wrote, "You cannot keep asking her to understand a boundary no one explains." Aaron replied, "Megan's therapist says direct contact would undo her progress." I had not been in therapy then. He invented a mental health professional to make my absence sound medically necessary. That lie ended any remaining debate in me about whether the secrecy had been passive cowardice. Aaron had actively authored my character. Renee apologized for not checking, but I understood why she had hesitated. Contacting the spouse of a former affair partner could have looked like an attack. Aaron used the social rules of privacy and shame as locks on both doors. I should have questioned him harder, she said. So should his family, I answered. But he designed the story so questioning him looked like harming the children. We agreed that future communication about Ava would be direct and documented while the separation unfolded. We would not form a friendship out of shared injury, and we would not let Aaron turn us into opponents. 3 weeks after the school call, Northbridge sent me a correction form. The registrar had reviewed the emergency listing after I flagged it. My name, phone, and email would be removed unless I gave written consent. The form included the entry Aaron had submitted, Megan Cole, family friend, authorized by father and mother. Beneath it was his electronic certification that all contacts had agreed. That one checkbox condensed the entire system. He had used my identity, not merely my silence. I signed the removal request and kept a copy. Aaron asked me not to use the form in the divorce. "It makes me look calculated," he said. "It records a calculated action." I only entered you because my parents were out of state. You selected a relationship, typed my information, and certified my consent while telling Renee I had finally agreed. Which part was accidental? He said he had believed that if the school ever called, he could explain before it became serious. A child had an allergic reaction, I said. It was already serious. You treated access to me like an emergency tool you could keep behind glass. He lowered his head. That evening, I told him I wanted a divorce. Not because Ava existed. Not because he had a duty to support her. Not even solely because of the affair, which had ended years before I learned about it. I wanted a divorce because every stable season of our marriage had been used as evidence that disclosure should wait, and every difficult season had been used as evidence that I could not handle it. There was no future condition under which his system naturally ended. It ended only because a nurse dialed the number he should never have entered. Aaron asked whether 19 years meant nothing. They mean enough that I need to stop letting you edit them, I said. Some of those years were loving. Some were good. They were also built around facts you withheld and decisions you made alone. He asked whether counseling could change my mind. I agreed to 2 co-parenting and disclosure sessions, not reconciliation counseling. Caleb was 18, but the family relationships would continue after the marriage. We needed rules for communication, holidays, and the gradual introduction of siblings if both children wanted it. Aaron interpreted my agreement as hope. I corrected him in writing. The purpose was to reduce further harm, not preserve the marriage. The divorce took 8 months of appraisals, statements, and negotiation. Aaron disclosed every account and transfer, both children kept their college funds, and insurance obligations were restructured through clear written notices. I did not receive a magical reimbursement for betrayal. I received documented numbers, enforceable boundaries, and the ability to make decisions using the same reality as everyone else. When Aaron's parents asked to meet, I told them, I do not need to be persuaded that Ava deserved love. I needed you not to make me the reason she received it in secret. They could maintain relationships with both grandchildren, but not pressure Caleb or use Ava's feelings to accelerate contact. Melissa gave me Aaron's old messages so the family record would no longer depend on him. Even her kind outings with Caleb had sometimes been scheduled to cover separate visits with Ava. It took months before I stopped reviewing ordinary memories for hidden captions. The worst damage of a double life is not that every memory becomes false. It is that every memory becomes uncertain. A late arrival might have been traffic or a school concert. A kind favor might have been love or scheduling. You cannot investigate 19 years backward without losing yourself. My therapist helped me create a rule: I would verify what affected present decisions and release what could no longer change them. Complete factual closure was impossible. A complete decision was not. Caleb chose to meet Ava 4 months after the school call. The choice came from him. Renee and I arranged it through the counselors at a public botanical garden halfway between Milwaukee and Madison. Aaron was not present because both teenagers wanted one conversation that did not revolve around managing his emotions. I waited in the cafe with Renee while they walked through the conservatory. We were 2 women connected by an affair neither of us wanted to center and by children who had inherited consequences without consent. Renee looked older than she had on the first video call, or maybe I had stopped seeing her as a role and started seeing the fatigue. Ava thinks you hate her, she said. I don't. She knows that logically. Logic is late to this family. Renee smiled once, without humor. She said Ava had spent years imagining me. Sometimes I was strict and religious. Sometimes rich and image-conscious. Sometimes ill. Every version came from a gap Aaron filled differently depending on the question. I told Renee that Caleb had imagined a sister too after learning the truth, but his versions changed by the hour: victim, stranger, replacement, connection. Neither child should be required to make the other whole. When they returned, Ava was taller than I expected and carried herself with the careful stillness of someone who had learned not to demand too much from a room. She had Aaron's eyebrows and the same habit Caleb had of rubbing the side of his thumb when nervous. Caleb introduced us even though everyone knew everyone's name. Mom, this is Ava. Ava, this is my mom, Megan. The ordinary wording moved me more than a speech would have. Ava asked if she could speak to me alone for a minute. We sat on a bench near a wall of orchids while the others stayed within sight. She said she was sorry the school called me. You did not enter my number, I said. You do not need to apologize for the truth reaching me. She stared at the floor. Dad said you were trying to be okay with me. I did not know you existed. If I had known, I cannot promise I would have reacted perfectly. I can promise I would never have asked him to pretend you were not his daughter. Would you have left him? Maybe. That would have been a decision about his affair and his honesty, not about whether you deserved a father. She nodded, then asked the question underneath all the others. Do you wish he had never met my mom? Honesty required care. I wish he had not betrayed our marriage, I said. I do not wish you away. Her face tightened. She looked toward the glass roof until she could speak. Okay. We did not hug. We did not declare ourselves family. We talked about Caleb's college plans and her interest in environmental engineering. She laughed when I said Aaron could repair a hospital ventilation controller but once ruined a microwave by trying to silence the beeps. The laugh sounded like Caleb's. That hurt and comforted me at once. The meeting lasted 90 minutes. Afterward, Caleb told me he wanted occasional contact with Ava but did not want joint holidays yet. Ava felt the same. We respected that. Their relationship developed through messages, then coffee, then a college campus tour the following spring. It did not repair the marriage, and it was not supposed to. It gave two young people control over a connection Aaron had controlled for them. Aaron struggled with the fact that their contact did not include him every time. He had imagined confession would eventually place him at the center of a larger blended family, forgiven because everyone loved the children. Instead, truth reduced his authority. Caleb saw him on limited terms. Ava continued regular visits but challenged the stories she had been given. His parents maintained contact with both grandchildren but no longer scheduled separate events through him. Renee communicated directly about Ava's needs. I communicated through a co-parenting app until the divorce was final, then by email when necessary. The man who once managed every route between two households now received information from people who no longer needed him to translate one another. The network survived, his control of it did not. During mediation, Aaron apologized in a way that finally sounded different. He stopped describing fear and named actions. He said he lied about Madison assignments, used his parents as cover, misrepresented my mental health, certified consent he did not have, and let both children grow up inside unequal versions of the truth. He did not add, because I was protecting, afterward. I appreciated the accuracy. It did not restore trust. An apology can be true and still arrive after the decision it might once have changed. I sold my wedding ring after the divorce and divided the proceeds between two local scholarship funds with no family connection. That was not revenge against Aaron or a symbolic payment to Ava. I wanted the object converted into something that did not require a private story to have value. Caleb left for college in August. On move-in day, Aaron and I both attended in separate cars. We carried boxes up 3 flights of stairs and avoided turning the hallway into a scene. Ava sent Caleb a small desk plant with a card that read, "For the room where you get to know things from the beginning." He placed it beside the window. Aaron read the card and stepped into the hall for several minutes. I did not follow him. Some emotions belonged to him without becoming my responsibility. The school portal sent one final automated notice in September because my email remained in an archived mailing list. Northbridge announced parent conference scheduling for Ava's senior year. Beneath the message was a link labeled Manage Household Contacts. I clicked only because the registrar had told me I retained access to verify my removal. The current profile listed Renee Hart, mother, and Aaron Cole, father, with no invented family friend. My name was gone. The record was small, bureaucratic, and accurate. I saved the confirmation, then unsubscribed. I once thought closure required a complete map of every missed weekend, dollar, and conversation. That map never existed, records had gaps, memories conflicted, and some field audits were probably real. I stopped investigating what could no longer affect a decision. I knew Aaron had supported and loved his daughter, which was right, while financing and scheduling that duty through lies, assigning me a false identity, and denying both children informed choice. The contradiction was not Ava's existence, it was the operating system he built around the truth. The school nurse did not uncover one secret. She dialed the only number in the system that belonged to someone who had not agreed to play a role. A year after the call, I attended Caleb's community college transfer ceremony. Ava came with Renee and sat 2 rows behind me. Aaron sat with his parents on the other side of the aisle. No one staged a family photograph or asked the children to demonstrate forgiveness. After the ceremony, Ava handed Caleb a card and asked me how work was going. I told her our company had finally replaced its terrible inventory software. She said she had been accepted into a summer engineering program. We spoke for 5 minutes, then she left with her mother. That was enough. On the drive home, I passed the Northbridge exit without taking it. I thought about the form that had called me a family friend and the years Aaron had called deception protection. The corrected record did not return those years, it placed each person in the life they actually occupied. Aaron was Ava's father, Renee was her mother, and Caleb was her brother if both of them chose that word. I was not her enemy, guardian, stepmother, or secret accomplice. My name had been borrowed to stabilize a lie, and I reclaimed it without asking a child to pay the cost. My other life did not begin when Aaron built his. It began when I stopped letting him describe mine.